Hello everyone and welcome to our June 9th, which is a Tuesday, Latte Lounge from ETN and myself, your host, Joanna Summerscales. I'm going to be joined shortly by Byrne and our lovely Penny Arnold, and I hope we'll have a surprise guest a little bit later too. What I wanted to talk about initially, after reviewing last week's episode number 4, because this is episode number 5, I was telling you guys about these. Now, these are ye old pinhole glasses. They look like that, and you really can see through them, believe it or not. Now, when I was talking about these, the camera was on Penny, and thank goodness she had her glasses on so you could know what she was saying. Anyway, I also was telling you about these because I had noticed an incredible change in my eye health and wellness using these for short bursts of time, sometimes 10 to 20 minutes, mainly when I'm reading, but I have used them on occasion when I'm looking at the computer. So I wanted to tell you about those. These are very cheap. They're about £1.99 or £1 something. And I even ordered some more because I tend to have them upstairs, downstairs, easily available. Now, this is also something I did. I wanted to show you this because here, what you can see there are magnets, neodymium magnets, and those little ones at the top, they're wee, tiny magnets. And I have to confess that I have not tried these out yet. And the reason that I put the magnets there was because of a gift that my sister had bought me. And I know I mentioned this last week, so I won't go into it, but just to show you what it looks like. And you'll all laugh when you see this, but I'm going to just hold it against my face so you can see it. So it's my contribution to the Darth Vader look. Now, you can see here, again, pinhole glasses. Now, I have looked for this place, and they are still online, but there is nothing about these. Now, what these are, what that unit there is a battery, and it will, if I... So it actually, what it does is just slightly vibrate around the eyes, and I'm telling you, when you're really tired or doing a lot of work like I do, it really makes a difference. And I wanted to show you something else. There are 13 these here, and here are small magnets, and the other things here are just it's foam, just to keep you comfortable when you're wearing it, because it, I mean, of course, you're not going to do this when you're outside. You're normally doing it in the comfort of your own home, or in my case, lounging on my bed and reading. Now, what I noticed about this, and I haven't been able to find such a beastie anywhere else, so if anybody ever finds one, let me know. So because that had really helped me enormously, even more than the regular pinhole glasses, I thought, well, hey, why don't I just buy some neodymium magnets, which I've done, and they've got some self-adhesive on one side. Already lost one from that side, but don't know where that ended up, probably magnetized somewhere. And so I want to see if these are as effective, but I'm telling you guys, because this is a very quick way it took to help upgrade your eye health and wellness, even if you're already wearing glasses. So I tend to buy just the pound shop glasses to do a little bit of reading of a very tiny print, but I'm telling you what, when I was reading a normal book print, which is normally 11, 10 point something, 10, 11, 12 point, depending on the book, size-wise of text, generally my eyesight would make it look very, small. And when I put these on, it enlarged the script. It was amazing. And then when I took them off, as I was continuing to read, just to see what the difference was, lo and behold, my eyesight went down again. So it was really fluctuating. After a week, just 1 week of really wearing these, and I mean, I don't mean I'm wearing them throughout the day very much, but 20 minutes at a time, maybe 1 or 2 sessions a day, sometimes just one session, maybe even a couple of sessions for 10 minutes. My God, within 1 week, when I went to read the text with these on and then with them off, the text remained the same. So my eyes had recalibrated. And what happens is that the cones of the eyes, they get fixed forward. And so it's like any muscle that isn't stretched. So that's the thing. So I just wanted to tell you about that and show you that. I know I told you that last week. And this is also a book I wanted to show you. This is Joseph Corvo, and you can see here all of these lines. And the reason I wanted to show you that was because I was describing how, of course, your eyesight would absolutely have an impact all the way through your body, because we've got these meridian lines, which you will know very well, but not very many people have thought about it in this way. So it's just to give you a visual on why our eyesight might affect our gut or the other way round, all of that kind of thing. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you before I welcome Pat in a few moments is that it's another homeopathic healing story. So just to keep banging that drum and flying the flag for homeopathy, I wanted to tell you this because I'd actually forgotten about it. I know I told you a story about a fantastic healing in the Philippines, and how a particularly nasty event was evaded with the help of a wonderful healer, and you can hear that on episode 4. But what also happened was that, because I've been now a couple of times many years ago, but the first time I went, I had been bitten about a week or so before by a cat that I was trying to rescue. Well, I did rescue it with a friend. And anyway, this cat, unfortunately, I got in the way of its teeth and it sunk them deeply to the bone of my hand, of my left hand. And I didn't go to the doctors, didn't go to the hospital, and it seemed that all was well. And so by the time I took my flight to the Philippines, or 19 or so hours of it, it was my hand was fine, and it had only been my hand, and there hadn't been any bigger wound than just the puncture mark and all of that. And I know that cat bites can be particularly dangerous for us, so I was aware of that. But I did all my usual checking and looking after myself, and I was also telling you last week that the Philippines is one of those incredible places where, if there is any issue or anything that you are not facing or that has been buried long and deep, the Philippines will act like a poultice and out it will come, one way or another. And if you don't believe me, you go to the Philippines. Now, most of the people, well, all the people that I went with on both occasions were homeopaths and healers, and we were there to see psychic surgeons and to meet other healers there. We had some guides and interpreters. We had a wonderful time, and all done on a shoestring, I might add, once again. Now, what was amazing was that when I got to the Philippines, I can't remember if it was within a few days. We were there for nearly a month, and within a very short period of time, I'm going to say 2-3 days, my hand began to get very, very painful. And then within a few more days, the infection, which I then knew it was, began to move right up into my arm. And it became so painful that I could not allow anyone near it. It was shocking. It was unbelievable. And I knew I was in quite a dangerous situation, because in the Philippines, we weren't near any hospital, and I wasn't about to go to any hospital either. So on the trip, as I said, there were some homeopaths, quite a few homeopaths actually, mainly Germans, and they were fantastic. So I was treated, and I can't even remember what they treated me with, lycopodium might have been one of them, which is for snake poison, venom, that kind of thing. So anyway, it was quite interesting because it took a while, and it made me feel very ill, and anyway, it was a fairly bad situation. I ended up having my hand and my arm in a sling. And then we were staying at the Little Flower Convent in Baguio City, which is lovely, or Baguio. It was kind of up in the mountains. And we were staying in a convent because, actually the nuns didn't like us at first. When we left, they cried. They liked us a lot. But anyway, so that's another story. But during the time, the one of the nuns, I was having this treatment and I was not doing that well, and I had my hand bandaged up and my arm, and she gave me what she called a bone stone with the promise that I return it to her, which I did, and it was I think I remember it being a small, only not large, about that big. And she made me put it in the bandage where the bite had been. And she said that will draw out the infection, but you have to absolutely give that back to me because these are very rare and precious. And, so please do that. Anyway, it wasn't too long before, I think it was maybe the end of the 3rd week. So I had about another week to go when I was okay. Something like 2.5 weeks, I was in trouble. And, because it's easy for things like that to get gangrenous and all of that stuff. Anyway, none of that happened. So thank you to good old homeopathy. Thank you. You saved my bacon, you really did. And to that wonderful nun, it might have been Sister Ignacion. She was lovely. And she was great. So those 2 lots of systems absolutely cured the extreme infection that was coursing through my body, and all the prayers and the healing that I had as well. But homeopathy, that was it. So I'm going to welcome Pat now. So Pat, thank you for joining us and nice to see you. I think you need to put your camera on and then we can see your lovely face. And Pat is going to talk to us tonight. She has been getting some extraordinary work through on what we might call channeling communication. And Pat, I don't know whether you can hear me or not. I can't hear you. Okay, you can hear me, so I still can't see you. Just need to click your little video button there, start video. And Pat has been doing some incredible work with, really, especially in these changing times, involving Mary Magdalene. And I know that Mary Magdalene has become quite an iconic figure for people just at this moment in time. And I think that is extraordinary. So Pat, I still can't see you, but where are you, Pat? Where are you?
I'm clicking the video.
So you've clicked the video. Oh, there you are. There you are. Hello.
I was clicking, but nothing was happening.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that sort of thing happens. So welcome to episode 5 of the Latte Lounge. And I was just introducing you. I don't know whether you heard me. I was just saying.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe you'd like to tell us all what you've been doing, because you've been getting some even more up-to-date stuff that probably I'm not up to speed with. So please do.
Yeah, I'll just give you a little bit of background on Mary Magdalene. I started having some channeled work through her about last July for the first time. And can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you fine, Pat.
So yes, that started, and so I was quite surprised because I hadn't channeled her at all. And she gave me a book which was called The Candle of Love, which is basically a book about awakening, ascension, heart opening. And I can go into the detail of that in another session.
Yeah, lovely.
But more recently, with I think what's happening in the world at this moment in time, I have done a book with her and Jesus Christ called Ascension. And then about 3 or 4 days ago, I had 3 channelings in quite quick succession around the full moon.
Oh, right, yes. Yeah, that was just, when was that? Where are we? Tuesday, just Friday or Saturday?
Right, I think it was over the weekend. I'd have to check my dates. I think it was 5th, 6th and 7th, and they all came like 5th, 6th, 7th, like that. So one of them is called The Spirit of Mankind, the Clarion Call.
Oh, lovely.
So immediately that said to me that in some shape or form we're going to be called to action.
Yes.
So what I've done, it is quite long, as we discussed earlier. So I've just pulled out a few passages within the work that I think are important and will give you a flavour of
lovely.
the whole message, which comes to about 4 or 5 pages of A4. That gives you an idea how long it is, about 1,500 words. And what I can do and what we can do, I know, is I've just opened a new Gmail email for the Candle of Love. So the actual email will be Candle of Love, and it'll just be colretreats@gmail.com. So if you can you'll pop that on.
Yeah. So COL retreats at
gmail.com.
Okay.
And if anybody wants a full transcript, or they want a PDF on that, then if they send me an email, and then I can send them the full one.
Okay, lovely. Thanks.
So I'll start off then and just Mankind, the Clarion Call, and this is channeled by Mary Magdalene. She says, the true spirit of mankind cannot be suppressed, let down, or set upon unless he decides to accept this restriction within his own heart. A threat is only led by ego and has no real force because it is afraid of losing its own power. And even when the dark descends like a black blanket enveloping the world, it really is fakery of the highest order. Fear is the enemy of mankind because then you become powerless instead of powerful. So what will it take to wake you up to your own mortality? Are you going to wake up and stand up to the bullying? Or will you now come into your own power and ignite the candle of love within you? No one can extinguish the light that is so strong within. The light will always set you free and can never be extinguished. But many are extinguishing themselves and separating themselves from their own light. Will you decide right now only to hold the love of God in your heart? What you are currently witnessing is a great power struggle on earth. Your leaders are being challenged, their ethics being scrutinized by many, and their behaviors being put under the spotlight right now.
True.
The answer lies within you. You do not have to accept anything that is not worthy of your innate intelligence and grace. The only truth now is one of discernment, and you have to choose to either follow the calling of your soul or renounce your power, renounce yourself to the power of Satan. All of you are very powerful beings if you didn't but know it. So use your power wisely. Object to what you do not agree to, and let your voice be heard and stand up and be counted for your beliefs. And now you have to take control and come within your own inner light, which will protect you. So each and every one of you has the power of the candle of love within. Now it is time to ignite the flame and become a leader, not a loser. I ask you today to examine your conscious and subconscious thoughts and aim to take control of your own beliefs. So what will you decide? To come into your own power, or give that away to another source that will not discriminate and will not honour you? Only you can decide as you stand at the entry gate of the consciousness of your own homecoming. Never has there been a better time in the evolution of mankind. Never before has he been given choices of such magnitude, or indeed the chance to take personal responsibility. Will you now take responsibility for your life? Will you become today? Who will you become today? And will you accept this challenge? What decisions will you make today at this time of man's greatest awakening? The choice is yours. You and only you are the master of your future fate.
Well, I think that's very powerful stuff. Very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it is about standing up for who we are. I just spoke to a colleague of mine just before I, started the show, and to hear that a doctor had contacted their wife asking them if there was any strange behavior, any oddity, this and this, because they had sent them, as is usual, and everybody else who has any impact and input into this entire scenario of what's going on, some information. And, I think this is absolutely incredible, because I think it's outrageous. So, how dare these people do this and question us in this way? Because, I have heard that people who, maybe not a medical thing and maybe a medical thing, who have dared to put their head above the parapet have been made short shrift of and been, sequestered away in asylums, mental health institutes, and had their lives destroyed. This is not on. This is outrageous. I mean, this is nothing new, sadly. But, when it's in your own backyard and somebody's just reported to you that it happened, today, inquiring about your mental health because you dared send them something that was slightly left of field, that their education isn't, up to speed with. So we do have to be careful, but you know what? We have to. We still have to speak, and we need to come together and speak sometimes. So, hence doing what we're doing here and just sharing information, which has been incredibly beneficial. And I think this work that you're doing, Pat, is incredibly inspiring and helpful to people who resonate with that. To hear that clarion call to, stand up to the bullies. This is, it's like being in a gargantuan playground, and we are being played. So not to get political about it or anything, but it's time to stop. Time to stop. But thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it was her way of giving us courage.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we are very aware of what's happening on the earth plane.
Yeah.
It's a way of supporting us to be braver, to believe in ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely great. And thank you again for sharing that. And we'll be sharing some more of those insights, Pat, maybe as they come flowing through, maybe next week or whenever they are, next there. And thank you very much. So we're going to say goodbye to Pat at the moment. Pat, we have to have a short group here, a small group.
I'll sign off now, and then you can get your people on.
Yeah, we can get our other people in the queue waiting. But thanks, Pat. That's absolutely brilliant. And next time we can chat about the not the psychic pets, but pets in the afterlife. I think that would be interesting. We haven't got time to do it this week, but next week. So thanks for that, Pat. Look after yourself. And we'll see you. I'll see you a bit later, probably.
Bye.
You just need to click end for you. All right. See you later.
See you later.
Well, hopefully you found that interesting, folks. I know it's resonating with a lot of people, and it's fascinating. And welcome, Davey. Hello there, David. And we've got Penny, I think. Penny, if you're there, I can't see your video, so you just need to click on your video. Hello there. And we have our mystery guest, it's not Alma, it's David Monroe from up in Lossiemouth. So thank you for joining us, David. That's wonderful.
Hi. How's everyone doing?
Absolutely great. All the better for seeing you. And I think Penny, Penny, there you go. There you go. So I don't know whether you can move your camera a little bit further down, Penny, so we get to see your whole lovely face.
Oh, no, I'm not so good on this.
Hi, Penny. How are you?
Got it. Yeah.
I think you would have met David in Probe, Penny. Oh, there's Phoebe. Is that Phoebe?
Yes. Cats are all in the same place. I may have done. Yeah, which probe? Which probe?
No, I don't think we have met, Penny, but you were kind enough to send me some very informative emails some months ago.
Oh, right.
Which I was very grateful for.
I was convinced you two guys knew one another, actually.
No, I don't think so, but hey, maybe in a previous life.
Yeah, I don't know why. I thought I was actually with you guys at Probe the once or twice I ever went, and I thought I saw Penny there. And anyway, never mind. Obviously not.
There'll be another probe, won't there? We'll all be together. The family reunite.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Penny, I was going to we're going to talk about the nano dust and how we can clear that through the use of crystals. So I think I'd love to kick off with that and then have David come in afterwards. David and I have go back a little way, and we have had quite a lot of interaction and communication about all kinds of different events that have gone on that are real life events that have been a challenge on a psychic level and physical levels, psychic, spiritual, every level. And I'd like to for David to mention those after you've spoken about the nano dust, and just tell us a little bit about that and how you think that would affect us. And then we're going to speak about how we can also be attacked on these other levels. So we've got the physical level, and then we're going to talk about the psychic level, because this is an area that isn't spoken about very much, and maybe a lot of people don't even know about it or aren't aware of it, but there will be a lot of you who are. And I'm also one of those people who has experienced psychic attack, for want of a better term. There's probably a much better term. I can't think of one at the moment, but if you do, you can let me know. So, Penny, perhaps you could start the ball rolling and just tell us about the nano dust, where you think it's coming from, how it's getting in our system, and what it would do to us if it did.
Well, it came into my consciousness a few years ago, and I know one of the AV conferences, Greg Nicoletto's spoke, who came, I think, all the way from Australia, about the, I've got his DVD here, it was AV3, oh gosh, 2009, again, it's a copy.
Yeah. So we're talking about, when you say AV, we're talking about alternative view?
Yeah, alternative view.
And Ian, that was is the brainchild of Ian Crane, R. Crane.
He came all the way from Australia, I think, to talk about the microchipping agenda. He was very, very well researched, and he lost time at one of the airports that he was attacked. He was, taken, I don't know, he'd give his presentation, which was very good. And I was interested in it. And 2009 was the same year that the swine flu pandemic was supposedly being created. And me being me, did some dowsing and found out that there were nano microchips in the needle. And that then, how things happen, synchronicity. I found out about Dr. Reich Hamer, the German doctor who I've got actually.
Yes, I know him as Hammer. You call him Hamer. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it here. The chip is at the tip of the needle. It's still there. His article, absolutely amazing. And it was about a friend of his wife's worked for a pharmaceutical company in Vienna and told her that the swine flu injection needles indeed contain nanoparticles in the very tip, which cannot be detected with the naked eye, and so on. Now, they wanted about the forced vaccination. So are you okay for a little story?
Yes, please.
I've just got to come back to I'm looking at my... I knew I have to be careful what I say, but I was very conscious of the actual ingredients of the swine flu vaccination was shockingly toxic. So as I was an NHS member, I went to a meeting in Grange in the Victoria Hall where the Morecambe Bay Trust directors and the deputy director was there, and the public had 3 minutes to ask a question or comment. And I'm not sure what the topic was. I think it was about this swine flu pandemic thing. I'd already met the deputy director a couple of months before. I went up to Penrith and met her, and I took him some of my research, and we had a common link because she loved music, and music is the thing that I always bring together because of obviously my uncle Malcolm Arnold being a composer. So she was there, and I had my 3 minutes, and I listed the ingredients. I said, I'm worried about it. So I'm a health researcher, retired school teacher, and so on. And I mean, it's got mercury, aluminium, formaldehyde. And I made a joke. I said, I think us in Grange are well enough preserved. We don't need any more preserving, formaldehyde. And then I didn't say anything about the microchips, didn't say. And then the lady, I can't think of her name, director, she said, oh, Penny, she said, if we didn't trust our manufacturers, we couldn't do our jobs. And my 3 minutes was up.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, so obviously the time has gone on, and with all this happening with the COVID thing, this was sent me, I haven't seen it anywhere on the internet, by a very good friend that knew David Boyle very well.
Okay.
This is what sparked me off. Can I just read it out? Are you okay for?
Yes.
And I've checked it with dowsing. It is true. The Chinese were all given mandatory vaccines last fall, so it's obviously come from America. 4, yeah. The vaccine contained replicating, digitized, in brackets controllable RNA, which were activated by 60 gigahertz meter 5G waves that were just turned on in Wuhan, as well as other countries using 5G. With the smart dust that everyone on the globe has been inhaling through chemtrails, that's why when they say someone is cured, the virus can be digitally reactivated any time. The person can literally drop dead. Just what they want, isn't it? Depopulation. The Diamond, sorry, I added that bit, that's not. The Diamond Princess cruise ship was specifically equipped with 5G. It's basically remote assassination. Americans are currently breathing in this, well, we all have been breathing in this smart dust through chemtrails. Think of it like this. Add the combination of vaccines, chemtrails, smart dust, and 5G, and your body comes internally digitized and can be remotely controlled. A person's organ functions can be stopped remotely if one is deemed non-compliant. Wuhan was a test run for this ID 2020. The elite call this 60 gigahertz 5G wave the V-wave virus to mock us. Trump has created a space force in part to combat this weaponized technology. We need to vehemently reject the attempted mandatory vaccine issue because our lives depend on it. Right, well, I got busy with the old pendulum over my chart and found out that for quite a few years now, on my chart, I just get a percentage, 20% smart dust in the chemtrails. I checked, obviously somebody, I forget who I was looking at for dowsing, they'd got the same amount in their body.
Yeah.
Luckily, the jolly old program clear quartz crystals disabled the smart dust because the crystals are the treasures. So does our unconditional self-love to that high level, which switches on our inner power, this power that I talked about before, the sacred light, sacred fire, as I call it, and the
And I think that probably, Penny, has a lot to do also because it's bound to express itself, and I couldn't tell you what that would be, but in formations of sacred geometry. We call it sacred because it is beyond and it is part of the essential building blocks of all that is, that's come down and then permeates through to the physical and all of that. So I am sure that self-love.
Sorry.
With
resonance and sound and the frequencies. Do you see? This is all very, very linked in with it. I'm not a scientist. I used to play a mouth organ when my children were small, but I know little bits about lots of things. But I seem to be able to join the dots together.
Yes.
Now, what happened a few days ago, probably about a week, up here in Cumbria? We had a day after all those beautiful blue skies, we had cue for song, blue skies. Suddenly, chemtrail. It was a bad day. There were crisscrosses everywhere, crisscrossing.
Yeah.
Remind me of the Hopi Indians, when the crosses appear in the sky, the end times are here. Mm. Wow. Well, I thought, I'll check out why they've done it. Right, they've doubled the smart dust. They've doubled it. Mm. Yeah. So, but don't worry, because the quartz crystals and the power of the heart can cancel it out.
And Penny, would you say, for people who might know what you mean by saying the crystals can cancel it out, would you say by focusing in a meditative or reciprocal way that with the crystals that will do it, or showering them with love and light?
Yeah, there's two. No, it's very interesting because the little guy that I met last November at the New Horizons evening at St Anne's, just by chance, I was there to listen to Piers Corbyn give his, because I like Piers Corbyn.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And I just discovered this way that our pineal and pituitary glands have been linked with this, creating this power, whereas I didn't know that. And that was when I brought in about Michael Feely. You know, again, the synchronicity comes in.
Yes.
And the yang, and it's the secretions, and how then both those glands have been targeted big time to depress them, to harm them. Mercury for the pituitary gland, sodium fluoride, pineal, you know, and they are so important to switch on this power. And I knew then that power protected us against 5G, because I'd already checked it all out. What I didn't know was anything about the crystals, because to raise your self-love to this multidimensional level, as old David Icke's always been saying, you know, this is going on, but remember who we are.
Yes.
It's not easy for many, many humans. And I get that.
No.
Because when I was, you know, I say through the shite into the light, I was having a difficult time. Sorry.
I like that.
I love it.
In fact, yesterday was the anniversary of my daughter's D-Day, I call it, a death day. And that 27 years ago, but wow, did I learn a lot since then. And I can never look at anything as, it is a difficult time, but it's the biggest learning opportunity.
Yes.
You know, and this is what I've actually been able to do, is to, and if it hadn't been for that happening, I wouldn't have joined a meditation group to try and get that link with her. I wouldn't have learned about the dowsing. I wouldn't have done anything. I wouldn't be up here. I wouldn't be.
So thank you, Hazel, your lovely daughter, for taking the path that she did, although it was traumatic and we would say it would be tragic, but not in another frame of reference.
And from the soul level, she chose me with Mercury fillings, because she was 4th generation Mercury toxic, I was 3rd. And so it's so important. So going back to the this sheet, I did a double side of A4 of the story of how I found out about, and that linked in with Magenta Pixie's book and her transmission from the White Wing Collective Consciousness of 9, the Black Box program, and the I've got it here, the Rose Gold Flame as antidote.
Okay, so we will okay, so we'll put links to that afterwards, Penny. So that's the.
She's talking about rose gold, and that's the power of that's the colours, the power of the heart,
right,
which have been, and that seemed to me, bringing all the dots together, was what these dark ones have been trying to squash down to, you know, for aeons, but literally thousands of years, not hundreds, thousands.
Yes, I'm sure.
So anyway, this little guy picked up one of my flyers that I'd got at because I know Chris and Rob, who runs New Horizons, and at the break, he came up to me and said, "Did you write this?" I said, "Yeah." And it turns out he's, although trained electrical engineer, lives in Preston, but he did a crystal course. Now, I didn't know this, but he wanted to come up and just meet up, and we met at Poker Hall Christmas market. And I checked him out because I don't know this little guy, you know, and he's like a younger brother now. Let's find out what's going on. And when I found out that where he lived, I couldn't pick up any EMF pollution at all in his home. Hang on, that's strange, because the EMF pollution has shot up.
Yeah.
So it really has. I think I've said this before. Can't believe how.
Is that because he's got crystals and?
Well, he said, "Well, I program the crystals." I said, "You do what?" I hadn't got a clue. You know, as I say, we can't know everything about everything, but
no. I know we did mention it on episode 4, but it's always good.
Yeah, but I knew it was important it's almost like it brought the bridge together
Yeah, and New Horizons, as you mentioned, is a place. Is just a meet-up place, a place where they have speakers and that kind of thing. In is it St Anne's up in near Blackpool?
St Anne's, yeah, on 5.
Just to give people a reference point there. And
so how to do it is so easy though, John. It's not, if you look online how to program crystals, it goes on and on and on and on. Really interesting. But what the course that Paul went on, he emailed me the really quite succinct instructions. One, how to clean the crystal, and then how to program. Now to clean it, you just choose a couple of things, washing in salt water and then applying sound to it like a tincture, or I found out with dowsing, if you hum at the heart chakra, that will help, you know, cleanse it from any past energies or so on, because you don't know who had the crystal before you. And then to program it, it's really so easy. It's so easy. You think, you don't even have to say anything, you just think it. Hold it in your left hand, hold the crystal to your heart, and just say what you want that crystal to do. It can protect, it can send healing, it can do all sorts. It's the most powerful, and that brings me as well to Harry Oldfield, because he was the one that I saw at one of the, it was Glastonbury Symposium, again, 2009, that magic year.
A lot happened in 2009, it's interesting.
Tell me. And then what's happening now? How many years after 2009 is all this happening?
Yes.
9/11. You got 2 numbers.
11, yeah, indeed.
Numbers, don't they?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fascinating. Well, I've got a ton of crystals in my home, and I intend at all points that they protect me, but I will, and I still have yet to do this, Penny, to do a pre-reading of my place sort of energetically before and after, and do that. Well, you know, you can do a pre-reading, so you've got your lovely crystals on there. That's great. I nearly wore my crystal earrings tonight, but I didn't have them to hand. So that's really easy, folks. So crystals aren't expensive either. I mean, you can pay expensive, but they can be if you've got a big ones, but you just need small ones. That's all. So it's available. It's just like talking about these, the glasses,
Yeah, I think I said last week, John, but the psychic tree, which is they send by post, they're 89p each, and you.
Oh, great! Great!
I've ordered so many to give away. They're giving me 10% off.
And that's for those lovely little crystals. Yeah, I feel I'd like to do the same with these pinhole glasses that I was talking about earlier, because Penny, you know, last week, I don't know if you saw the episode 4, but thank you for putting your glasses on, your pinhole glasses, because I was burbling away in the background talking about them and about this other fantastic unit that's got magnets and a little battery pack on it to cause a vibration and the movement and everything, and I didn't have the camera on.
Just out of interest, Joe, before you go, why are the magnets there? I remember you saying, but
I tell you what, this unit was, my sister sent it to me as a joke, but actually it's fantastic, and I'll show you the other way. All of these points here, there's 13, interestingly enough, are magnets. All those points there, they're just foamed pieces to just hold it comfortably on your head. And what I found, Penny, is it's absolutely extraordinary. The little battery pack, I don't know if you can hear that. It's got, and it just vibrates against here. And when my eyes have been incredibly depleted, which is fairly frequently, I've actually felt, and I did say this last week, but I'll say it again, and actually it's as if this entire part of me is being, it's like a massage. I can feel the energy moving, and it is palpable. It is very, very physical, and that is like a declogging. That's how I read it, declogging of this energy. And I was showing earlier, just showed to camera, this book, Joseph Corvo, The Zone Therapy, because we were talking before about how, you know, why would your eyes possibly have an effect on your the rest of your system? And then of course we were talking about the fact that everything is interrelated. Sorry, I'm just looking for an image. I have already shown it, but just so people know what we're talking about. We're talking about this zone therapy, and it just shows the lines written. Oh, where is it again? Difficult, isn't it? I should have put a marker in it, but I wasn't clever enough to do that. There we go. Thank you.
No.
So you can see that the lines and how, the lines at the top here go all the way through here. So, when anybody says, well, why might my eyes affect my heart, my spleen, my anything? Well, hey.
I think it's the vagal system as well, John. The vagus
nerve, yes. The vagus nerve, you mentioned.
Not told about, which can be harmed by mercury and aluminium.
Absolutely. And I would, and thanks for sharing that, Penny. And I think that you might have some input in what Davey has to say as we come to David next, because I think what he has to share is really, really important. And it's not something that you think of very often or think that is even possible. And that is what we might call psychic attack or some incursion from some non-physical, although it can have a physical impact and effect, certainly has a psychological effect and spiritual effect, field. Let's call it just that. So, David, I wonder if you would mind sharing the story that you told me, just obviously keeping the name of the people concerned, private, or we give them another name. And David also, actually, I will say, is quite a long-term experiencer in terms of up in Lossiemouth, sees absolutely tons of UFOs, and anomalous, has experienced very anomalous things as well as seen them. Both he and his lovely wife have regularly had experiences. So this is particularly interesting though, and I would love you all to hear what David has to say.
Well, thank you very much, Penny. I found that very interesting what you were talking about there, and we do live in interesting times. There's an awful lot of stuff going on at the moment, as you're so well aware. And things are changing rapidly. But the information that you gave tonight is very important, because anything that helps humanity at this time is hugely important. And I'll be doing that tonight with one of my crystals, I can assure you. Yes, there's two. I'll cut the story short. I had an event not so long ago. I had a constant problem for many years with members of a secret society in the local area, which I was going to become a member of a long time ago. And at the last minute, it's very interesting, but I withdrew my candidacy after I'd been accepted, and my trouble started then. And some of the trouble was really very, very evil. They tried to get me involved in stuff that I really wasn't guilty of. In fact, I had not so long ago an ex-policeman come to my home and explain to me the mechanisms that had been used. He'd retired from the force, and he'd undergone quite a shift in his consciousness, and he felt obliged to come here to my home and tell my wife and I some of the things that had gone on, all of which I was aware of, but he gave it to me from their angle, which was very interesting, and it involved quite senior people in what we'll call, mistakenly, erroneously call, the legal and justice system. But anyway, he didn't tell me anything I didn't know, but it gave me a lift, because I realized that, I'd lost sight of the fact that there are great good forces in this universe, and if we can access them, they will come and they will help, and I've certainly had that. So I was quite surprised when these guys sprung another actor, as I call them, onto the stage, and this chap befriended me, and he was quite a plausible guy, but I knew early on that he was a member of this organization, despite the fact that his occupation would indicate the opposite. And to cut the story short, my wife and I went to Glasgow for a couple of days, a couple of 100 miles south. And on the way home, we were on this very, very narrow road in the middle of a moor, coming into the Highland area, and not a particularly a bad day or weather-wise or anything. And as soon as I mentioned that guy's name, my car started spinning like a top. I'd done all the coincidentally, I'd done all the snow and ice driving stuff because I was in commando helicopter operations in the Arctic for some time, and I'd learned all the tricks of how to control a vehicle that's kind of out of control to the best of my ability, but I had no control whatsoever. The vehicle was spinning in the middle of the road. Okay, there had been no traffic on this road whatsoever, single track road, and then the vehicle came to a stop. Almost completely shocked my wife, and as soon as the vehicle stopped, it then shot backwards into a bog. So I have to get out of the vehicle quite quickly. Anyway, to cut the long story short, within 2 minutes, several cars turned up, an English couple who were very helpful, an Australian couple, two plumbers in a van, and they all pushed my car out, and I got the car home within an hour. So that's part one of the illustration I'm going to give. The other one was, I have a friend from school days, very fit guy, extremely fit, much fitter than me, and I've got reasonably good fitness. And he and I go cycling a lot. And last night, he and I were out cycling, and like me, he's on the red pill treadmill, as we call it. We're trying to find out what's going on, we're trying to piece things together, and so on and so forth. And he phoned me today, and he said that after he went home, he'd fallen asleep, but he'd been badly injured. He had a nightmare, but he jumped out of his bed, screaming. He cut his head badly, very bad cut on the top, which I think last night would have required stitches, but it had congealed by today. I went up to see him 6 miles away. And he also broke a tooth. One of his teeth was broken. He described this situation to me. He first of all saw a number of people from his past, from childhood on. He used to be an international boxer, this guy, and he saw faces of people who he'd boxed over the years. And then he saw a war between black clouds and white clouds, and the white clouds were winning. The black clouds were rolling back. Some gold faces, and then absolute terror. He went into shock, which is something he doesn't normally. This is on completion of when he picked himself up off the floor. So, and the analogy I gave him today, he could kind of relate to. And what I see here is that the dark forces are being soundly beaten on a number of fronts. And it's like the boxing in the 12 rounds, you know, if you're getting beat on points every round, any trainer worth his salt will tell the boxer, you've got to go and look for the big punch now, because you've lost this. So you're going to have to find something. And that's the analogy I make with these dark forces. They really are trying everything they can. But I detect, and like you, Penny, I use dowsing rods and pendulums, and I detect very strongly that they are on their last legs or thereabouts. But I don't want to get too cocky because I've got a wee bit ahead of myself in the past and then had to pick myself up again. So yeah, I just see that there's a number of things happening on a number of fronts, but I get the impression it's all good. And the last thing I'd like to say, Penny, I told Joanna about this. The last time we had snow up here in the Arctic Circle, a neighbour of mine said, go and make a snowball and try and melt the snowball. And we did. And we couldn't melt it with a naked flame. All the snowballs we made over the last 2 years here have instantly gone black, like they're made of plastic, and they congeal.
I've actually seen that on camera. Somebody did it in the States as well, so I know that has happened. I've watched them, you know, they sent a little video, put it out. Wow.
And the last thing I would like to say, we talked about EMF. I've got one of these cheapo £10 EMF meters, and I've been using it quite a lot recently. And I get, where I am now in this top room, I get every night high readings. Okay, I don't know what the calibration is. It doesn't give a calibration on this thing. And I bought it so long ago that I can't remember how it's calibrated. I went online to try and get the information, but unfortunately couldn't get it. But a friend of mine that lives in the States she's telling me, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, that the ETs are in fact chemtrailing the chemtrails to clean up some of the stuff that's been going on. And I dowsed that, and I got a yes to that particular proposal. And she also told me the other night, this is not to counteract what you said, Penny, by the way, I wouldn't do that. I'm open to all information. But she did say the other night that a lot of this reading that I'm getting here is a very positive reading. I don't myself kind of yet quite subscribe greatly to that, but I'm open to it, so I keep my mind open. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It's all energetic, but I have a feeling that it's all traveling in the right direction, which is fabulous.
And going, just a quick comment about the ETs chemtrailing the chemtrails. I took a photograph into the chemtrails in fact in 2011. And I know it was that time. I did a lot of things in 2011. I started the Amash project and some other things. And I was taking some photographs just for a friend who was doing a project on chemtrails in the States. And I just thought, I'll take a few shots. It was all over this lovely park. And but the light was so bright, I just put my camera, which is a little Panasonic, something like that, into the sky, and where I wanted it to click, and I turned away because it was too bright. When I got home and downloaded the images, on 3 of the photographs was this pencil-like bright light object coming out from the direction of the sun. I'm not saying it was coming out from the sun, it was far too far away to see and too bright, but very, very clearly. Now then, what somebody did, they subjected it, with my permission, to a piece of software called ImageJ, which I hadn't heard of before. It basically deals with contrasting. And this is actually on my YouTube channel. They did this. They did a little video showing that, and then some other videos, images of UFOs, and it looked like the chemtrails came up a purple, and it looked like the object was sucking in the chemtrail. Now, you couldn't certainly not see that with the naked eye for sure, but then going back many years ago, and I don't know whether we're talking about the 50s or even early 60s, about a Canadian radio engineer called Wilbert B. Smith of Canada, who was very, very high ranking and had lots, and in fact the Americans were coming to him with debris and pieces of crashed craft for his input. How that kind of came to be, I'm not quite sure, but he was in touch with Offer, one of his boys topside, as he used to call them, the boys topside. I love that. And at one of the meetings, there was supposed to be Offer and his colleague, comrade, whatever you want to call it, and so there was just Offer, and he was late. The other guy was late because he had been cleaning up the atmosphere. So this was back in the 50s or late 50s and early 60s. I think Wilbert B. Smith died in 63, 64. That would be a time when there were lots of bombs being detonated, atom bombs, testing and all that sort of nonsense. And he was off cleaning up a certain portion, because Wilbert Smith was in Canada, and he was then moving it out of the populous areas of population and to dump it safely away so we wouldn't be affected. I mean, whoever hears of that? But I've only ever heard it from the Wilbert B. Smith source, and somebody saying that craft that I'd photographed with this ImageJ software showing the contrast looked like it might be slurping up the old chemtrail. So I think we're having a lot of help, and I think that's actually really exciting.
Well, I look out this window in front of me, and I look over the bay, and I'm looking east, and there's a beach here that's closed to the public, as you're aware, John, and you too, Penny. You sent me some mails relating to this beach. This was the reptilian beach.
I remember now, yeah.
Yes, and your emails were very, very informative. Now, I discovered in the course of non-related conversations that local people knew that was a reptilian base. I was quite shocked. And I remember one guy, I said to him, "How the hell did you know that?" They said, "Everybody knows." And I thought, wow. And as a result, but anyway, where I'm going with this one is that every night we get, if you can imagine, streamers, as you would see, if you get a broom handle and tie a ribbon and then wave it round, paint it lime luminous green, okay, and then wave it round in the darkness. This is what we see every night here, sometimes for very short periods of time, sometimes for long periods of time over this beach. But last night we had another interloper. We had a military drone turn up.
Oh, okay.
And I watched it through the binoculars for some considerable time. Oh, I'm saying it was a military drone. It was certainly bigger than, the sort of commercial stuff that you buy in the shops. And then somebody felt obliged to turn the lights off on it after about 15 minutes. But it wasn't here by accident. And the beach is still closed off. There's an 8-mile stretch of this beach that the public are not allowed to go on. Now, last weekend we had a decent weekend. People were wading.
So I think that is absolutely fascinating stuff, Penny. This, and the other thing that David spoke to me about all the time ago when he had the car issue, which was this year, I think, was that it seemed also, when it went backwards, it also was going backwards up an incline.
I thought that, yeah.
I mean, not a very steep incline, but nevertheless up an incline. And when you think that he's had Arctic training, specialist training with his job, and that he couldn't impact that at all with his skill set, which is quite incredible. But yeah, there we go. So just goes to show you, folks, there are really some extraordinary things. So you are not going bonkers. You're not losing it. If you are working on the path of information, empowering yourself, helping others, doing the best you can do, being the best you can be, and we all fall down by the wayside. There's no, we don't come with instructions, but just do what you can and stand up to the bullies. I know it's hard, but yeah, it's not on that they seem to think that they can, tread on the every man and woman.
And child as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So so we were going to talk about I think was it magnesium, Penny, that we also flagged up to have a chat about, because again, that was an element that was certainly flagged up, certainly in my life, as being one of the low minerals. And I think I was telling you before about an extraordinary, eccentric doctor I used to know called Dr. Parvis in the Southall, I think it was, south of London. And he just used to treat everybody mainly under the guise of weight loss. I say under the guise, a lot of people used to go to him for that, but actually would end up being treated for all kinds of other things that were really the underlying issue, which he had this fantastic intuitive ability to know. I went to him because I wasn't sleeping and my back was still not 100%. And I would love it when I would go to him. He had a wonderful, crazy look. He was half Iranian and I think half German. I think that was the incredible mix. And he looked a little bit like Peter Sellers from that movie where he puts on the wax nose, which begins to melt. And the long, slightly straggly hair. I mean, honestly, I tell you what, I've met a few people that if they hadn't been introduced to me or I didn't know them through the pathway of the people I love and trust, I would, I don't know if I would have gone there. But anyway, so that was interesting. And he would put in so he did a lot of things, acupuncture. He was a herbalist, and he also did loads of things. And one of the things he used to do was he would put a few of the acupuncture needles in just to get your system calm, and then so because I wasn't sleeping at all properly, he'd give me some passiflora and valerian, but in I don't know what the dosage would have been, because within 5 minutes I was unconscious, gone. And it was bliss, because I wasn't getting enough rest, and it didn't last very long. I mean, you had, you'd be back within, I don't know, let's say 15 minutes, something like that. And you felt slightly woozy afterwards, as if you had a good drink. And our antidote to that was coffee and donuts afterwards.
Good.
But that really helped a lot. My goodness, what an incredible man. And I took a young boy to see him as well one time, because he began having terrible twitches, but very pronounced. Really the whole head would get twisted, and and his mum thought he was doing it on purpose. I said, no, he's not, you can tell, my goodness. And I said, let him take me to this unusual doctor. He only chose like 3 or 4 quid. I mean, it was a long time ago, but even so, he was amazing. And when he put the needles in this little boy, who was 13, so he was at puberty age, they would just ping out, and it took about 5 goes for the needles for his system to settle enough for the needles to do their work and remain in situ. And I said to Dr. Parva, do you think that it's a magnesium issue? He said, yeah, very, very likely. And he mentioned a couple of other things, but he said definitely the magnesium. And he called, he said, sometimes it is known as Derbyshire neck. And I'd never heard of Derbyshire neck. But apparently in Derbyshire, I mean, maybe not now, but certainly in years past, it was known as an area deficient in that mineral, and that would, and part of the lack of that magnesium would cause muscular contractions and twitches and all that kind of thing, which is very unpleasant if you're going through that. And of course, magnesium is part of calcium being absorbed, isn't it, Penny? Something like that. Anyway, I
don't know too much, but I do know that it is incredibly important in the body, and every cell in the body needs magnesium.
Yeah, it is.
Research on the internet, there's a lot of information about how important it is, and it's best taken transdermally through the skin, not orally, especially as if anybody's not protected against the frequencies, the cellular membranes shut down to protect themselves, so they can't absorb nutrients properly anyway.
Oh, you see, that's fascinating. I hadn't even thought about that, but that makes complete sense. Absolutely. And
the Epsom salts, but are fascinating. One of my places I want to visit is Epsom Downs to see the magnesium, the mineral springs. And
is that in? This may sound a silly question. Is it actually in and around Epsom in the UK?
Yeah. And the people have been taking the waters, laying in them since 1600. There's quite a bit about it.
Well, I have to say, I do, when I have a bath, I'll normally have an Epsom bath. That is, I'll put maybe 4 or 5 handfuls of Epsom salts in there.
Yeah. Flotation is amazing.
Yeah. I haven't tried that. Oh yeah, I have once, a long time ago actually. yes, that's just brought back the memory. A long time ago.
That time again, because you're floating. 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts and a foot of bloody water.
Wow.
And it's super. And then I say, if you're, I do when I'm in the flotation tank, when they're open.
Yes.
Really open, can we? We have anyway. Is to hum all the way down through the chakras.
Yes, we were talking about that before as well, weren't we? And how important that is.
And when how I found out, I think it was with the dowsing, because with the quantum hologram between the 0 point field, there's all information that ever has been, is, or might be in the future, knowing that the future is a possibility because consciousness creates reality. So I was able, I still can do this, ask, what does this person need, how much, say, magnesium, does this person need for their optimum health? And I was shocked when I saw my pendulum going right round to about 80% on my chart. That's a lot.
That is a lot, yes.
I was surprised when say what sea salt, knowing what I know about sea salt, how important it is. We are the ocean. We got an ocean within us. I got a 40 on my chart, 40%. but magnesium, double. Really, really important. And again, chance. And then it's interesting because I've probably said this before in the other meeting that we had. I used to have the magazine Namaste, which is not produced anymore now, which is a shame. And I'm going back quite a few years. And there used to be a big full-page article on transdermal magnesium, but it didn't get into the head brain, the heart brain, or
all right.
I didn't pick it up because I didn't know enough about it. And there again, it's true, isn't it, Joanna? Knowledge really is power. And most people are walking around not only with weak spleens, damaged pituitary glands and vagus system, vagal nerve, but also magnesium deficient.
Yeah. Could you speak a little bit more, Penny, about the vagus nerve? I know we touched on it in the previous episode, but I think it's so important.
So important. You're not kidding. And it's another example, isn't it, Joanna, where the things of most terrific importance for our health, our optimum health, not only just mind, but also body and spirit and so on, has been deliberately suppressed and knocked out of consciousness. And this is like when I talked to the GP here about Montgomery law. I haven't got a clue. Well, it's set in the GMC for doctors. It's there.
Honestly.
Directly, not mine. And he didn't even know about it. So the vagus nerve, it's a system in the body, and the cranial nerve, I forget if it's 10th cranial, I can't remember, comes out the brain and goes back of the from the skull down behind the windpipe and trachea, and the esophagus, and then it's called the wandering nerve because it just literally spreads out and it connects. All our parasympathetic nervous system is controlled by the vagal system, the vagus nerve, and it's that sight, obviously, hearing. That's why I think my sight started to go a few years ago. And whatever I tried to do, I didn't do the pinholes though. I wish I'd have known you then, Joanna.
When I first came across them, but wow, what an incredible result, really.
Me having so much mercury, that is something that damages the vagus nerve. Yeah. And there is quite a lot on the internet about it. And it's very interesting because there was a young lad who is very psychic, and I know him quite well. He's in a hostel in Iona, that's where he's staying at the moment now, and he works there. And he was researching the vagal system exactly the same time as I was. And this happened actually, wasn't it, with Lynn McTaggart when she did the Living the Field. I've got the book. And she went around all the, interviewing all these scientists who were actually researching the same things, the existence of the 0 point energy field. They hadn't got any connection with each other. It was just something that they all were doing. And so, we are literally, how are we connected? It's by the energy field of the heart.
Yeah. It's interesting because I went to that Lynn McTaggart conference in London. I think it was back in 2006, possibly 8, but anyway. And they were all, and Edgar Mitchell was there, Hal Puthoff, some Russian astronauts, and William Tiller was there, Cleve Baxter, who did all the work on plants and the communication of plants, how they feel, everything. But at the end there was a big meditation to end with, so the whole of the audience and the panel of people and the speakers, it was absolutely a wonderful thing. And I am quite sensitive and I'm quite relatively intuitive, but I wouldn't say overly much. And I felt this tractor beam of beautiful energy coming from the panel, and it honed in on William Tiller. I don't know if you've come across him. He's a most fantastic scientist, absolutely extraordinary and wonderful soul. He's still with us, and it was wonderful because I could feel the power of his meditative impulse was enormous, far outweighing the other people and all of us probably as a unit. And when we finished, I went up to him and I said, when the meditation finished, I was going on, I said, I could feel your specific intention of love coming directly from you. I mean, I'd never experienced that before. I don't think I have since either. But so that's William Teller, and he is one heck of an extraordinary, metaphysically aware, spiritually aware scientist. Wonderful, wonderful man. So that was very exciting to have experienced.
Is he American, John? Or?
Yes, he is.
I thought so.
William
All my
Teller.
latest features are from the States. I don't know why.
Yeah, and
has he got a website and so on? Can we?
William Teller, I haven't looked him up. You know what? I will look up for the notes at the bottom of the video here when I put it out. I'll see if I can find any information for William Teller. I haven't actually referenced him for a little while now, but what a special man! My goodness, a Trojan warrior and a huge energy. In such, you almost think that he might have been a monk at some point, but that quiet, wow, deeply powerful energy, superb, absolutely amazing. So, I haven't been to a lot of these conferences or things, but the ones I have, it's certainly been, very interesting indeed.
I was going to say, John, it's right to just come in briefly while we were still waiting for David, because what he was talking about was really interesting, so I hope he gets in.
Yes, he did say that he's having difficulty. It's not allowing him in. So, and we're trying it again. I don't know why, because you didn't have any issue coming in. But yeah, so carry on. But please carry on. And I'm just going to.
About it, but it's been another incident where I have, with the dowsing, found out that some dark energy has invaded a human from their timeline, back from their either past lives or something, and this is special and it needs clearing, and I think it's really important to know about, because at the beginning of this year, this is why all this dark stuff has been going on, 2020, I checked out, and I think it was because of some eclipses, and there's a big lunar eclipse, southern hemisphere, a lot of things going on, and I couldn't pick up any dark energy, certainly not dark entity or demonic entities were actually able to be present in our consciousness. It's almost as though we block them out.
Yeah. I honestly believe that I don't think it's we're watertight yet. Not getting tight yet, but we're getting there.
Earth has been going up in dimensions.
Yeah.
Expanding her tectonic plates and so on, and she is really, really going up there, and it's happening now still. It really is, and it's because so many of us light workers who can switch on our DNA strands and whatever we're doing, and we're protected, whether from the unconditional self-love energy field or the program clear quartz crystal, because I think that's the bridge, but I think when we do that, we help ourselves go up into those other dimensions as well.
Absolutely.
And the dark energy, I'm not judging, cannot manifest. So it was a real surprise, because actually with the dowsing, when I say I'm going back now to this time last year, I get readings, or if I go forward, I get a possibility. So you see, there's all things are possible, but I've been seeing with 5 or 6 people now, dark energy invading, and when I ask, that's from their timeline. So
interesting. Well, I just wanted to share with you, because David's been trying to get back on, and I just want to read you. So he sent me this on Skype just now, and he says, my application to join the Zoom meeting was declined as my email account has been suspended for 30 minutes. He said, as soon as I started to speak about that beach. Isn't that interesting? So, David, thank you very much for your wonderful contribution. And I hope maybe you'll come on next week, maybe at the beginning. And so we'll have the enjoyment of you for a longer period of time. And let's see what they say then. So isn't that fascinating? And that happened, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Penny, as well. I was trying to get David on and I'd sent him all the links and nothing was working.
Interesting.
He has, I tell you what, that man has so much interesting information.
Right, you need to know about this crystal and create that.
Well, I have to tell you as well that this is the first time he's gone public.
Ah.
This is the first time he was going to be on my radio show, the Amash Project, which the Amash Files, which was finished in 2015, end of 2015, 2016. Anyway, so it shows you how long ago it was. And when he was going to come on, he tells me that he had a call from some male suggesting that it might not be a good idea.
That means it is a good idea because we'll turn it around.
Well, that's right. But when you have family members and it's not just you have people to take care of, and there's a threat. This is how they do it all the time. This is how they do it all the time. Anyway, we're not going to dwell on that because he came on today. So yay. It's taken a few years. But I just want to say thank you to David once again, because to everybody who feels a little bit nervous about coming forward or whatever, there are other people here to support you, and I support David as well, do some work with him energetically on occasion, just to maintain those structures, integrity of the light. Because sometimes if you're being a little bit compromised energetically, it's very hard to do it just all by yourself. Sometimes you need a friendly bod to come in and hold the light with you so you can do your work. So Penny, I think we've probably naturally come to the close for this episode 5, unless you'd like to finish.
There's a lot of changes happening at the moment.
There are.
And obviously with this dark energy coming in, it's only if anybody hasn't got that high level of self-love that switches on that power. And I really emphasize how important that is.
Yeah.
And as the journey to get there will be helped with programming the crystals, but you can program the crystal, protect yourself from, and also have a lot of sea salt in the body, because the sea salt stops these dark stuff getting in, which is why everybody's been told to lower it, and the low salt industry. And the other thing as well is about the sacred consciousness, because when the sacred light, sacred fire, which is the pineal pituitary gland secretions, I added one of my own, and that was a consciousness which is only switched on when we have the belief system within ourselves and not outside ourselves.
Yes, yeah.
Which I know would be difficult for a lot of people. I mean, I've got a lovely friend who's a Mormon priestess, and there's the good side and there's the dark side. She's the good side. But of course, it's always looking out all the while, and even I listened to a wonderful Native American give a talk and a song. It was on a lovely website, which I'll try and send to you by email, Joanna, because I haven't got it in front of me at the moment. And he kept linking it into the Bible, which I haven't got a problem with. It's because he still had this wonderful belief in himself and who he is, and his connection to the earth, his connection to all that is, and and I think that is just so important. And it's even more important because as we are raising our dimensional levels, then it's even more important that we do believe and know just basically how powerful we are. Yes. Good point to end on.
Yeah, it is. So thank you very much, Penny Arnold, for being my guest again today, and David Munro from up in Lossiemouth, Scotland, and Pat Byrne, and sharing her wonderful work earlier on. So this is episode 5. It's June the 9th, and we'll see you next week, more than likely.
Fantastic. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Reading.